The FBI opened an investigation into a journalist, not because she leaked classified documents, not because she broke a law, because she wrote a story Kash Patel didn't like. And here's what makes this different from every other political scandal you've seen. He told us he was going to do it 3 years before it happened, on camera, in his own words. And when the moment came, he did exactly what he promised. This is that story. In December 2023, Kash Patel sat across from Steve Bannon. He wasn't the FBI director yet. He was just another name in Trump's orbit. But he looked directly into the camera and said something that nobody forgot. We are going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens. Nobody moved. Nobody pushed back. Most people watching assumed it was noise. Campaign rhetoric. The kind of thing people say when they're trying to sound tough. But Kash Patel became the FBI director, and then a reporter wrote one story, and then the FBI came for her. Her name is Elizabeth Williamson. She works for the New York Times. On February 28, 2026, Williamson published a story about Patel's girlfriend, a 27-year-old country singer named Alexis Wilkins. The headline was simple. The FBI director had assigned a full-time SWAT team to protect her. Not part-time, not occasionally, around the clock, every single day. That had never happened before in the history of the FBI. Elite tactical agents, trained for hostage situations and active shooter scenarios, now driving Wilkins to hair appointments, flying with her to performances in Nashville, Britain, Illinois, standing guard outside a country singer's door, because the FBI director wanted them there. But that's not what stopped the room. What stopped the room was what happened after the story went live. Because within days, FBI agents began pulling up federal databases. They were searching for information on Williamson, not on a criminal suspect, not on a foreign asset, on the reporter who wrote the piece. And here is where it gets worse. The theory agents were pursuing was this, that Williamson had broken federal stalking laws by making phone calls, by sending emails, by contacting associates of Wilkins for comment, by doing, in other words, exactly what every investigative journalist in America does every single day. Career prosecutors inside the Justice Department couldn't process what they were reading. Officials began raising concerns internally. This had no legal foundation. There was no case. There was no crime. What there was, and they said this directly, was retaliation. The investigation was retaliation for an article Patel and his girlfriend did not like. The DOJ shut it down. But here's what couldn't be undone. The databases had already been searched. Wilkins had already been interviewed by agents. Supervisors had already formally recommended moving forward with a preliminary investigation. All of that happened before anyone said stop. The machinery had already moved, and nobody at the FBI told the New York Times. They found out through a source, a confidential source inside the government who was willing to risk their career to make sure this didn't stay buried. When Williamson's colleague Michael Schmidt published the second story, the one about the investigation into Williamson, it hit the press like a shockwave. Joe Kahn, the executive editor of the New York Times, released a statement within the hour. He didn't hedge. He didn't call for a review. He said, "The FBI's attempt to criminalize routine reporting is a blatant violation of Elizabeth's First Amendment rights." Then he added 3 words that cut through everything else. "It's alarming, it's unconstitutional, and it's wrong." The FBI pushed back immediately, but their denial was careful. A spokesperson said investigators were concerned about how the aggressive reporting techniques crossed lines of stalking, but then added, and this is the part to listen to, no further action regarding Williamson or the reporting was ever pursued. They confirmed the concern. They confirmed the investigation started. They just said it didn't finish. That is not a denial. That is a confirmation with a footnote. House Judiciary Democrats posted publicly the same day. They asked Patel directly, exactly what FBI databases are you using to search for information about the journalist who dared to write a story about your girlfriend? Nobody from Patel's office answered the question, but the date on that question was April 23rd, 2026. And 2 days earlier, something had already been caught on camera. This is the moment you need to see. April 21st, 2026. Patel stood at a press conference podium in Washington. The event was supposed to be about fraud charges against the Southern Poverty Law Center. Then NBC News reporter Ryan Riley raised his hand. He wasn't there to talk about the SPLC. He wanted to ask about Patel's $250 million defamation lawsuit against The Atlantic, filed just days before. Riley pressed on a specific detail, a login issue. documented in Patel's own lawsuit. The computer login issue. Just explain the computer login issue. You were not able to log into the system. Your lawsuit contends that you were not able to log in. What did you think after you were unable to log in? Patel turned to the room. Let's have a survey. How many of you people believe that's true? Riley kept pressing. Patel cut him off. The problem with you and your baseless reporting is that is an absolute lie. It was never said. It never happened. The two men talked over each other. The acting attorney general stepped in. Stop. You're being extraordinarily rude. Just a little bit of respect, man. Just a tiny little bit. Try it sometime. The room went silent. This was the FBI director, at a government podium, being told by his own colleague to calm down, while a reporter asked a question about a lawsuit that Patel himself had filed. The question wasn't hostile. It was about his own legal document. Think about what was happening in the same week. The FBI had been caught investigating a journalist. Patel had filed a $250 million lawsuit against a magazine, and now he was at a press conference telling a reporter that asking questions was baseless. In the same 7 days, 3 separate attempts to silence the press, 3 separate fronts, and underneath all of it, that 2023 video. We are going to come after the people in the media. He said it to Steve Bannon. He said it on camera. He said it before he had any power to act on it. And then he got the power. And Elizabeth Williamson published one factually accurate story, and the FBI opened an investigation. Here is the part that no official statement has addressed. Every fact in Williamson's original story was confirmed. The FBI itself confirmed Wilkins had a security detail. The FBI confirmed agents had accompanied her on trips. The spokesperson confirmed the SWAT assignment. The story was true, every sentence of it. And still the FBI went looking through its databases for something, anything, to use against the person who wrote it. The DOJ confirmed there was no legal basis. That means the investigation wasn't about the law, which means the FBI was used not to enforce the law, but to threaten someone who was telling the truth. The only thing standing between that investigation and Williamson was a group of career DOJ officials who looked at what they were being asked to do and refused. They caught the machine mid-motion and turned it off. That is how close it came. The 2023 video is still online. The stories are still published. The DOJ's conclusion is on record. The press conference explosion is on tape. Nothing has been hidden. Nothing requires guesswork. Every piece of this connects, in a straight, unbroken line, from a promise made in 2023 to a federal investigation opened in 2026. He said he would come after the media. Then he ran the FBI. Then he came after the media. The only question nobody has answered, and the one that won't let go, is how many other names are in those databases? How many other searches were run? How many other investigations were opened and recommended before someone said stop? Because the one we know about only came to light because a source inside the government was willing to risk everything. And Kash Patel already told us, 3 years ago, exactly how he feels about people who do that. The press conference video is still online. The Bannon interview is still online. The New York Times stories are still online. This is documented. This is confirmed. This is a timeline, not a theory. A clear, unbroken line from a promise to an action. The FBI director said he would come after the media. Then he ran the FBI, and then he came after the media. That's not speculation. That's a record. And records don't disappear just because the people who made them wish they would. Elizabeth Williamson went to work. She made phone calls. She sent emails. She asked questions. She published what she found. That is the entire crime she was investigated for. Not a leak, not a stolen document, a story that turned out to be completely true. The FBI searched its databases for a reason to stop her. The DOJ said there is no reason. The machine stopped. But the machine had started. That is the part that matters. When a federal agency opens an investigation into a journalist for writing the truth, even if it's eventually closed, a message has been sent. The investigation doesn't have to succeed to do its damage. The opening of it is the weapon. Kash Patel knew that in 2023, when he made his promise, he didn't say, "We will convict journalists." He said, "We will come after them." If the New York Times hadn't had a source willing to risk everything, none of this would be public. Williamson would never have known. The rest of the press corps would never have known. That source changed everything. And somewhere inside the DOJ, unnamed officials are still choosing every day whether the next request from above is one they'll follow or one they'll stop. He already told us there will be a next reporter. We are going to come after the people in the media. past tense promise, present tense power, and a future that depends entirely on whether the people inside the system keep saying no.